here are all the problems. So this problem could be like, quite unique to my project, or it could be pretty universal problem that pretty much all the students will potentially be facing when completing their capstone. So I will talk about those problems, those challenges, and also list out the step-by-step in high level on how do we solve them as a team or by myself. The first challenge is that, it's pretty general stuff, like how can you understand your problem? Like how do you perform research on your solution? How do you break them down from like this high level requirement to different parts that you can solve step by step? Like how to dissect the problem into smart chunks, like how to do video, like for my own case, like how to do video data collection if we don't have that much data to work with. What are needed for data cleaning, data engineering, and the data preparation for later machine learning modeling. So how can we measure qualities from the content with the machine learning models? What kind of machine learning model that we can use to solve our problem, but also we understand it and then we also can interpret the results. After we measure the topic relevancy, how can we interpret the results and also validate the result at the same time? So those problems you kind of have to think all at once at the beginning before you proceed to have a general planning about them before you proceed to the actual detailed coding texts that you're gonna be doing. The exciting part. So after we touch base with the clients and mentor and the class instructor, we definitely got more useful advices on those high level problems that can be broken down into smaller questions to answer or perform researches on. Also as a team, we then come up with a diagram that contains high level steps that we need to work on when completing the pipeline. So the other challenge that we're facing is that since our project was not very well scoped for a team of students with full-time jobs and part-time study and who only have 2 school quarters to complete. The challenge is how we can scope this project down to a doable size. As the clients refuse to provide anything that has already been done and expect us to deliver a solution from a fresh perspective, the clients only provide us with only few sample videos and reference texts on maybe 5 specific scientific topics. We do need to start from really scratch, from data collection all the way to where we can implement the modeling and also drive the insight and then come up with a useful presentation. So at the end of the day, we will not be able to scope this project down as much as it can be. So lots of work in coding, engineering, trying out stuff would already double and triple the time that we would have needed to invest in this project to complete. So at the end of the day, the solution was since we need more time to do the work, and I was the main engineer that do the main coding stuff, so I decided to postpone my graduation. So basically, I just dropped a few classes so I can focus on more time on my job and also on my capstone project. So I can have some overtime to be invested in this capstone to make up the short of time for completion. The third challenge I was facing was that, after we dissect our problem and proceed to research and the coding and the solution part, how can we estimate if we can deliver within the tight deadline that is required by the capstone class? It can be very easy for us to underestimate the time we need to invest in the actual project, but also the deliverable within the capstone project, such as presentation, writing the draft and plans, this research paper, and then even we need to complete some quizzes from the class lectures. So those deliverables actually put a lot of stress on top of the heavy coding and engineering side of the project, because those deliverables are actually graded. So it will definitely impact, whether you're gonna get an A or you're gonna get a B from this class, right? So what I did was to implement more agile approach and behave like a scrum master for project management. I started a task tracker in Google Sheets. So in each meeting, we can talk about the project progression, allocate resources along with the assigned tasks for each teammate to work on within the deadline and estimate the time. And also definitely prioritize what is due by the class instead of what is due by the clients. But in the reality, it should definitely prioritize what is due by the business need by the clients instead of by the school, right? So this is a school setting that we're trying to imitate what's really happening in the actual data science project in the real world. But while the other teammates was working on more class delivery side of work, I focus on more client-driven delivery side of work. So overall, things are not going very smooth, but we kept it doable. We could still meet the deadline for the class due, but overall, all of the promised coding side of delivery was almost never delivered on time, according to the tracker I set up. which leads to the fourth challenge I was facing. So as I did mention in the last challenge, as a team, we're very new to each other, that we were all following our own busy schedules in school, works, and life. And so the overall morale to work on this capstone project as a team was very, very low. And the trust did take time to get built up. So we were having like a lot of code delivery issues in the first or at the beginning of the second capstone class. So the struggle when working together is that we did not build our trust quickly enough. And sometimes we have our own way of communication, way of expectation on each other and on ourselves. Basically, the expectation is like all of us wanted to be ambitious about what we do. We wanted to achieve, we wanted to experience as much as we could to fully get that capstone experience. But the problem were occurring when there were gap between your expectation, your ambition, the trust between the team, and also your ability or capacity to actually deliver and perform the job. So for example, we constantly have this like a good agile project management session. Later, when it comes to deliver the actual code, the solution, we usually run into the issue of like, oh, I have not done this part yet. Like, sorry, like because I have a busy work, I have busy school, I have to do my homework because I'm not sure how to do it. And I probably need more research and more help, but I don't even know how to ask the right question because I don't know what I'm doing. Like, can we push that line a bit further? This thing happens a lot. So as a project lead, the trust and expectation from my side was a little bit lower and lower towards my teammates. That's why I decided to take on most of the heavy coding work myself and also change the whole structure of how this team works together. So we did have our turning point after the change. In the midway of our project, we were kind of behind what was due and what is required, especially we haven't got to the modeling part of the project yet. So after some like talking rearrangements with my team, we find that what actually worked pretty well was that instead of evenly assigning data science tasks to everybody and expect them to complete the work on time, and we also relied on each other for all the code to be put together. You know, what I did was I started to ask everyone to do what they're really good at from their background. For example, like one of the teammates is a real life consultant from Big Four, and she's a very detailed and communication driven type of like person who is like more capable of being in charge of tasks such as project tracking, research paper delivery, and building decks and slides, you know, touch base with the clients, managing clients' expectation, and so on. The other team member came from more finance trading background and they wanted to break into data science. So he has a drive to work on many of the modeling side of work, but his own capacity is full of his work and also like school projects and other classes. So he can behave or act as like a middle point between me and the consultant member, right? He took on some of the engineering and the modeling work to focus on, but he also invests heavily working on building decks and writing papers for the class delivery, and also talking to the clients and managing clients' expectations. So the concept of this arrangement, which I realized already, was that the consulting background team member did not get to build the model she wanted to build in her capstone, or some of the member may not have the chance to work on certain part of the project they wanted to get exposures to, or a member like me was building most of the code, need to invest most of my own time to build out this heavy lifting, like a modeling portion of the work, which, you know, is also unfair to myself too. But at the end of the day, this way of arrangement works for my team. On-time delivery in terms of completing certain things that is required. So as assigning the team member to do what they're good at or what they're kind of interested in, and then also have the capacity to deliver, was the most efficient way that I find out in the short term that for me to lead the team, especially when we're having to meet hard deadlines consistently, right, throughout our two capstone classes.